Because we're all attached to hearing Krishna's words. They are ambrosia, they are our life and soul. We want to hear what Krishna told you. So who would like to share what Krishna told you? And do we have another mic? Yes, so raise your hand and we need someone to volunteer to bring the mic. Nimai Leela, can you do that? Okay, who would like to share?
Hare Krishna. Krishna told me that I don't take my japa seriously.
Krishna told you you don't take your japa seriously.
Yeah, and it's very mechanical.
And it's very mechanical.
I don't finish my 16 rounds in the morning.
You
don't finish
your 16 rounds in the morning. You chant mechanically. You're not serious.
It's like it goes on throughout the day in bits and pieces.
Oh.
So there's no concentration. There's no feeling. There's no feeling.
No feeling, yeah.
And no taste.
No taste.
So it's at an all-time low.
And then what did he tell you to do to remedy the situation?
Sleep early and get up early.
Sleep all day and get up early?
No. Sleep early and get up.
So sleep early and get up early, yeah, that's good. That's very important, yeah.
Fix a time for chanting in the morning and stick to it.
Fix a time, stick to it, don't do anything else.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm not sure whether chanting while traveling, as you said, is not the right thing to do. And that's what I do nowadays.
Yeah, it's a last resort.
Yeah.
Not the best thing.
Yeah, so I have to avoid that.
Yeah.
Chanting while traveling.
Because there's a difference between chanting properly and not chanting properly, and you will feel the results. They'll be magnified over the years. So there's a huge difference. We're going to talk about that more after we share. Not all chanting is the same, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, 1 or 2 rounds may be good. 1 or 2 rounds may be good. And then the others are like, just we have to finish. We're running out of time.
Chanting to finish.
Yes. It's like more of a core to finish than being happy to finish.
Oh yes. Happy that I'm finished. Krishna, I'm tired of you. I'm so happy I don't have to hang out with you anymore. So here, one principle that comes from this, which is very important, is that, ladies in the back, please pay attention. Hare Krishna. Come, join us. Many of us are very conscious of how many rounds we're chanting because we want to get them done. And as you said, once we get them done, we want to take the bag, put it down, and just not worry about it till the next morning, right? I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to look at it. It's finished. It's kind of like homework, it's done. So when we're chanting, rather than focusing on Krishna, we tend to focus on the number. So, as strange as it sounds, the chanting of 16 rounds then becomes an obstacle. Although we vow to chant 16, but the 16 now becomes an obstacle because that becomes our focus, rather than our relationship with the holy name. And that is an indicator of a problem, that we don't like to chant. And that's a very big problem. As Arthur was saying, when you're absorbed, you don't even you're not so much in touch with how many rounds you're chanting or where the time's going. When you don't have a taste, it becomes 16 rounds. That's the goal. But the goal is not 16 rounds. I mean, the goal is 16, but it's not 16. In one letter, Prabhupada said 16 good rounds. So at least we can say the goal is 16 good. And good means you won't be focused on the number. So the number becomes the problem. And it's just an indication that it becomes a problem, and it's an indication there already is a problem. Just like the guy wants to go out with his friends, but he promised his wife he would go shopping with her, and she said she'd be finished at 1 o'clock. So it's 10 to 1. He's looking at his watch and he's saying, it's 10 to 1. We have to go at 1. Because at 1 he's free to go with his friends. So how does his wife feel? She feels like he doesn't really want to be with me. He'd rather be with his friends. He's looking at his watch. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And you're looking at your watch. Or you're looking at your counter beats. It's very similar. Now let's look at it from a position of rasa or relationship. If Krishna is his name, and I'm interested in getting over my chanting as quickly as possible, that really I'm saying, Krishna, the less I have to be with you, the better. Because I have many things to do, and this is getting in the way. Did you ever feel like your japa is getting in the way of all the things you have to do? If I just didn't have to chant japa, I could do so much more. If you feel that way, that's a sign of a problem. Japa is not getting in the way, japa is the way to go back to Godhead. Right? Okay, very good. At least we know the problem. We're clear. And then she mentioned another thing called mechanical, and Prabhupada himself used the word mechanical. So what does mechanical mean? What does mechanical chanting indicate? Who can say?
There's no life and soul in it.
Oh, there's no life in it. Yeah, it's like a machine. You know, want to hear something funny? Who wants to hear something funny? Haribo. Jai, let's hear something funny. In Japan, there's a Buddhist temple that has a pujari, and you give the pujari whatever it is you want him to offer, and he offers it. The thing that's funny is it's a robot. A robot. The pujari is a robot. How do you say robot in Hindi? Robot? How do you say it? You know what a robot is. It's a machine with arms and legs. So you give the robot and then he offers it to the deity. So that's mechanical puja. You could make a robot and you could put a recording of your japa on it, give him some beads, and he could chant for you. But it wouldn't do you any good. So you rightly said mechanical means the heart. There you said there's no heart. There's no life. It's like it's dead. So I have an example to give you. If you shoot a gun that has no bullet, but it makes an explosion that sounds like a bullet, it's called a blank. It gives the impression that a bullet has been fired, but it's just an explosion, but no bullet comes out of the gun, right? So imagine we sent you into, where would we send you into? What's going on now? We send you into Iraq with a gun full of blanks and say, go out and kill the enemy. You can't kill them because you don't have any bullets. You only have blanks. Right? So there's an example or an analogy that chanting mechanically without life is similar to firing a gun with a blank. It makes a sound, Hare Krishna. But there's nothing there. There's no life there. Isn't that interesting? Now, I have to tell you something very important. I have many things very important to tell you, but this is so important I will stand up and get excited about this. If I don't stand up, I'm going to fall asleep in this chair. So, I think it may have been 1976 in Mayapur at the festival. One devotee organized a competition, which is a Sankirtan competition. In Mayapur there are many kirtaniyas, and they have bands, kirtan groups. So they invited these kirtan groups to perform, and then they were going to be graded. And then the ones who got the highest grades would get awards. So they'd come on and they'd chant, Hare Krishna, like that, as they do in Bengal. And that style, Krishna, like that. We don't really chant that way. It's not so much our style, that's more the Sahajiya style, but that's the professional kirtan style of Bengal. It's a long, drawn out, Krishna, like you're kind of like crying, and there's bhav and so many. Emotion is going on in your heart. So, Prabhupada was in his room and he heard such a kirtan. And he said something very important. It's like essentially important for understanding the nature of the name. He said they're not chanting Hare Krishna. But they were chanting Hare Krishna. I mean, you could hear the Maha Mantra. But then he's saying they're not chanting Hare Krishna. So why would he say they're not chanting Hare Krishna if they're chanting Hare Krishna? Apparently there was money involved. The ones that placed high would get money. And also these kirtaniyas, most of them were professionals, which means they did this for a living. They got paid for their kirtan. So when Prabhupada heard the Hare Krishna, when he heard that, or something similar to that, he said they're not chanting Hare Krishna. They're chanting money, money, money. So why is this important for us? This is essentially important because what we learn from this instruction is the same instruction we learn about bhakti. It's not what you offer, but it's the mood. So now you're chanting what appears to be the holy name, and actually your consciousness is money, money, money. So you're not actually chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, because the Hare Krishna mantra means, please Krishna, accept me, uplift me. But your consciousness is money, money, money. So even the sound Hare Krishna is coming out, it's not actually the Hare Krishna mantra, and it doesn't have any effect. It doesn't have the effect that it's intended to have, because you're not chanting. So not are you only, in this case, this is not even a blank neutral mantra. This is money, money, money. So it's very important. So now if we think about our own life and our own situation, we could probably come up with several kinds of mantras that we're chanting based on the consciousness that we're putting into the chanting, right? Now, a very low level of chanting, which is considered namaparad, would be, Krishna, please give me a BMW. Hare Krishna, because I want to be respected in my neighborhood. Or give me a Rolex watch. Or something that's just so not Krishna conscious, has no necessary use in Krishna consciousness, but I just want it to flatter my false ego. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's considered namaparad. Now I have something to tell you. I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but it's really interesting. In Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, Jaiva Dharma, he said that when you begin chanting, you actually begin from the stage of Nam Abbas, not Nam Aparad. That any time you give the mantra to somebody and say, chant Hare Krishna, they're actually chanting Nam Abbas. They're not chanting Nam Aparad. You actually have to make a little bit of an effort to chant Nam Aparad. Isn't that interesting? Like you have to, if I just say, chant this mantra, okay. You chant it, you don't even know what the Nam Aparads are, so you can't make them because you don't know. So right away, you can't do Nam Aparad. How can you? So even if you make a Nam Aparad, it's not Nam Aparad because you didn't know you're making it. So you're not consciously making it. So we're all starting from Nam Abbas. The second, and then when you come to know the Aparads, or if you come to offend a devotee, you're doing something consciously wrong, then you're making Nam Aparad. So if you just chant, okay, just chant this mantra, it'll get you high. Hare Krishna, Hare, and you're just chanting in ignorance. It's Nam Aparad. But what our Shastras and Acharyas tell us, if you're chanting specifically to achieve something material which has absolutely no relation to anything in Krishna consciousness other than just your gross sense gratification or the flattering of your ego, that's Nam Aparad. So as you know, in the Hindu religion, many people use God to further their material desires. They invest their 50 rupees, they buy the banana, the incense, the coconut, the tulsi, and the flowers, and they offer to the deity, requesting something in exchange, like a lakh. 50 rupee investment, you get a lakh back. Why invest money in the stock market? You're not going to get that kind of return. Real estate won't give you that return. Nothing will give you the same return as one 50 rupee plate, right? And the right prayer. So that becomes aparad. So now, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said something that I find extremely amazing. He said that when you chant the holy name, and you're not chanting with a desire for purification or desire for service, you're chanting the Mayak name, like an external. Like you had Maya Sita, When Ravana came, he stole Sita. Actually, he didn't steal Sita. Because Sita is the property of Ram. And no one but Ram can be with Sita. So when he came to steal Sita, Agni in the fire took her away and ran off with her. And he left a Maya Sita, because only a materialist associates with Maya. They can't associate with the internal potency. So Bhaktisiddhanta is saying the same thing. Unless there's a devotional mentality, then you're chanting a Mayak name. And like you were saying, a dead name. And he used this language. He said, there's no life in that name. We all have experience of chanting 16 rounds, and after we finish our rounds, if they were good, we feel alive. Yes? And we all have the opposite experience. If they were not good, sometimes we feel dead. Yes? You want to have some fun? Who's my scribe? You? You're the scribe? Can you go to the board and erase it, and we'll ask a question, and we'll have some fun. And this fun will prove my point. This is a very important point, because what we're learning is it's not that you just sit down and do 16 rounds and all 16 rounds are equal, but your consciousness is what's important. As everything in bhakti, consciousness is what's important, right? What is the difference between our cooking and Mother Yashoda's cooking? Consciousness. Does she use pots? Does she use fire? Does she use milk? Does she use knives and spoons and ghee and yogurt and spices? Yes, 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 yes. Do you know Mother Yashoda has 100 flames in her kitchen? Did you know that? It's 100 flames. Yeah. So, The difference between ordinary cooking and her cooking is the consciousness, just as the difference between ordinary chanting and pure chanting is consciousness. So, I want to show something about the lifeless nature of japa if our consciousness is lifeless. So, let's look at a bad day of japa, one of those nish nish nam nam hari haris. You're trying to stay awake, you're completely bored, you're texting while you're chanting, you can't wait till it's over so you can hang your bead bag up in a closet and not look at it. One of those days. How do you feel at the end of one of those days? And she's going to write it on the board, okay? How do you feel? I feel like going to my psychotherapist because I'm really depressed. Yeah? You feel depressed, right? Yes? Yeah, okay. Bored. We already know how he feels. You feel bored, right? I was like, what? Oh, he's a psychologist. Oh, you can counsel yourself when you're... So if you have a bad japa day, we can call you up. Discounts, yeah. Aren't the psychotherapists the most crazy people? In general? Yeah. Bored. What else? Frustrated and lethargic and apathetic. Who wants to chant more? Scattered. Scatterbrained. What am I doing? Like wasted? I just wasted. That was a waste. I just wasted 2 hours. Whole day goes bad. No energy and ruined my day. And what was that? Low level of tolerance, intolerance. Feel relief from? Oh, that's over. You feel, no, we have to word that in a negative way. So, I'm happy not to chant. No, you should say, I'm relieved I don't have to chant anymore. That's relief from chanting. Yes? Uncontrolled. Okay, anyway, that's enough. We get the idea. So, you probably wouldn't print a mantra card and say, chant Hare Krishna, and you will feel depressed, bored, frustrated, scattered, time wasted, no energy, days ruined, no tolerance, and we forgot apathetic and relief. You feel relief that you don't have to chant, and uncontrolled, etc. Would you? Because as we know, that is not the real result of chanting Hare Krishna. But we sometimes feel like this. So can you actually chant Hare Krishna and feel like this? That doesn't make sense, does it? So that's not proper chanting. Something is wrong, right? Now, Rohini Kumar said apathetic. And apathetic means, as he was saying, tomorrow when I chant, I think, if it's going to be like this again, I don't want to go through this. This is depressing, right? So I realized that many of us, when we begin chanting, we may go through a kind of a fear that today's chanting is going to be as bad as yesterday's. And so we sit down and we chant a mantra subconsciously, which goes something like this. Oh no, 16 rounds again. Yes? Yeah, that's really bad. Because that means we're starting on a negative, which is because of consistent bad japa over a long period of time, then it becomes difficult, boring. And then the next stage, what some devotees do is say, well, if I have to do this 16 rounds, I will divert myself while I chant. So rather than hear the chanting, they just kind of do something creative with the mind while they're chanting. Right? Maybe think about your service or do something. Design something. Design a new deity outfit. Design a temple. Whatever you do, right? Design a new project, Hare Krishna. So you're not really chanting, you're just kind of absorbing your mind in something so you can tolerate this horrible experience of having to chant 16 rounds. And of course, if you're actually feeling that way, you're not going to be very enthusiastic to go out and encourage other people to chant. Because why would you want them to chant and end up as miserable as you? Right? So you'll meet some new person at the temple and they said, well, I just started chanting, and in your heart you're thinking, poor you. And I can see it coming now, in a few months you're going to be struggling like me. I feel bad for you. Yes? So, the point we're making here is that's not actually the Hare Krishna mantra. It's not the real name, because the real name doesn't produce that. So let's do the exercise, and we need you again. And now we're going to ask, how do you feel when you chant good rounds? Those times when you just somehow, or by Krishna's mercy, are relishing the holy name and you're absorbed. How do you feel? Blissful. Feel very blissful. It's a feeling that you can't compare with anything, right? It's transcendental bliss. Yes? I can't hear with the fans. Do we have a phone? A microphone?
Hare Krishna. I've also seen when you don't chant properly the day, I've seen there's an impact on your service attitude, or either the service. Even if you want to do it, Krishna somehow or the other just doesn't allow you to, just because the whole day has been like that, especially the chanting part. It doesn't allow you to enter into that service to him and his devotees.
Yeah. Because chanting is meant to beg Krishna for service. So if you're chanting mechanically, you're not there in your heart. So Krishna may think you don't want service. Okay, but on a good day, now we're on a good day. How do you feel? You don't need to go to the psychotherapist on a good day. Yes. Amazing relationships with devotees. Charged up. Supercharged. Become more intuitive. I didn't get it. Try it again. Between the fans and the accent, it's hard for me.
Having sword of knowledge.
Having a sword of knowledge. Okay. Sword. English is a bad language. It's pronounced sword, not sword. Spelled sword, right? Spelled sword, and it's pronounced sword, like without the W. Having the sword of knowledge. You feel very clear, very intelligent, very enlightened. Yes? Feeling the presence of Krishna in the holy name. Yes, feeling.
I also see that it helps in seeing the things in the right perspective.
Seeing things in relation to Krishna?
In relation to Krishna, but also sometimes it doesn't happen that, okay, I have done a good chanting and then the whole day will be fantastic. I'm going to get a lot of mercy in this and that. It can happen that you will be fired, maybe from the job or from the boss. But you get the right perspective of how do we tackle those struggles and hardships.
Yeah.
that come during the day. Maybe.
All right. Proper perspective. Yes. What else? Ecstasy? No ecstasy? Blissful. Ecstasy is a little better than blissful. It's another Shakti. Yes? You want to chant more. Very good. This is really important because how do you know you're chanting good rounds? Well, this is one very easy way to detect. Because you know when you're chanting good rounds, you really don't want to stop. And you know when you're chanting bad rounds, you can't wait to stop. Right? You're happy to, as somebody said, you're happy to stop. You're relieved to stop. But that's really bad. The most important activity in bhakti, and you're relieved to not do it. That's not good. But if you're relishing it to the point where you want to chant more, there's some ruchi there, there's some taste, and that taste is a symptom that you're chanting properly. And that's your reward, because Prabhupada was asked by a newspaper reporter, what do you get by chanting? And he gave an unusual answer. I mean, not really unusual, unexpected by the reporter. The reporter was expecting to say you get improvement, you get happiness, you get peace, typical things you would get when you meditate. And Prabhupada said you get more chanting. So he was thrown off. I mean, we understand what that means. Because the reward of ruchi is you get more ruchi. The reward of taste is you get more taste, and the reward of more taste is more chanting. And the reward of more chanting is more taste, and more chanting, more Krishna consciousness. And so you could ask the question, Swamiji, what do you get by bad chanting? You get less chanting. Or maybe you get no chanting. Some people stop chanting. It's kind of funny because, some days we have some really good rounds and we're really relishing it. And those are special days. And certainly, at the end of those days, you don't think, okay, that's it. My chanting's finished. I'm not going to chant anymore. You look forward to it. But those days when it's bad, that's when you think, oh, next day's hard to chant, right? And so, I chanted some really good rounds today, so tomorrow I'm not going to chant any rounds. You don't think that way. But when you chant poor rounds, eventually, for some devotees, they chant, it's hard for them to chant 16 rounds. Have you ever been in a situation where you're having struggle over a certain period of time to get your rounds done? It's like hard every day, have a few left, have to make them up the next day, then you have to get a special counter to just keep track of all the ones that you have to make up. And what is that a symptom of? A lack of taste. So when there's no taste, there's that danger that maybe I won't even be able to chant 16 rounds. Yes? So, there's a really funny story, and it sounds sad, but it has a happy ending. And you won't know it's funny until I tell you the whole story. One of our senior devotees, who's an initiating spiritual master GBC and a sannyasi, admitted in front of the GBC that he could not chant 16 rounds. Now what to do? Samasya hai. What to do? Not chanting 16 rounds. Kya hai? Samasya. Bahut samasya. Right? So everyone is concerned. You can't chant 16 rounds. You're a senior devotee. He was joking with them. And then he said, it's actually not a problem. What I meant was, when I get to 16, I can't stop. So I can't chant 16 rounds. He was chanting 32 a day. So I can't chant. When I was young, maybe, Rohini, you remember this commercial, maybe it still exists. It's a commercial for a cracker. So I don't know if you know, but in crackers they put spices, they put salt, and they put sugar. Scientifically designed that it's impossible to eat one and not eat another one because of the combination of spices and just the right amount of salt and sugar. And it's not a sweet cracker, it's a spicy cracker. But a little bit of sugar, you can't, it's impossible. You remember that commercial? And the commercial is, bet you can't eat one, meaning you're going to have to eat more than one, right? Yeah, so we all have that experience if you eat crackers, the good ones. You can't eat one. Could you eat one potato chip? Could you get a bag and eat one potato chip? Yeah, that's it. No, you can't. Right? So, he had ruchi, so he's saying the same thing. I can't chant 16 rounds. It's impossible. I have to chant 32. So, that's wonderful, because there's ruchi. Yes? So, no, that's good. It's good. And I just wanted to show that we're making the point, the holy name is not equal for everyone because it depends on the consciousness. So, we say, the holy name means Krishna, please uplift me. Krishna, please accept me. There are many, many definitions different acharyas have given. Prabhupada gave several, but different acharyas give different definitions of the holy name, which basically means Krishna, please, whatever it is you need, please give it to me. I need to be uplifted, or I need to come closer to you, or I need bhakti. Krishna, please give it to me. Right? So there's that consciousness is there behind the holy name that you're asking and praying to Krishna. Now, one of the things you'll see, and this is really important, so pay attention, that your need for spiritual advancement comes out, the depth of your need, the intensity of your need, it comes out in your chanting. So when you really feel the need to advance in Krishna consciousness, then when you're chanting the Maha Mantra, you're putting that need, oh Krishna, please, I just want to be engaged. Please don't deviate me, or please help me in a particular way so I can be focused on you. And the stronger that need, the more you put your heart into it. Have you ever chanted that way? Just feeling like desperate? Krishna, I can't deal with this situation. Hare Krishna, Hare. It's at that point when you get your best rounds, isn't it? Krishna, I don't, you've just taken everything away from me. I have nothing. Please, what should I do now? Please help me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You're totally desperate. There's a nice story. You know the story of Draupadi. So, Krishna, please help me. So first it's two hands, then it's one hand, then it's no hand. So while she's calling, then Satyabhama and Dwarka, she's hearing that Draupadi's calling you. Why aren't you going? And Krishna says, it's too late because it's too far and I can't get there. And Satyabhama is saying, what are you talking about? He said, no, it's too late. Then he hears Draupadi calling again. Krishna, you have to go. She's calling you again. No, it's too late. I can't get there fast enough. Then the third time she calls, at that time she had both her hands up and she was crying. And then Krishna left and he told Satyabhama, he said, now I can go because she's cried and I can travel on the chariot of her tears and then I will come. So what's Krishna showing here? He's showing that if the intensity of the desire is how he reciprocates, right? So sometimes we know we're chanting and it's only to fulfill the number. There's no other purpose. So that's what we would call mechanical. It's not real. And it's like, sometimes we say, if you don't take yourself seriously, nobody else will, right? So you're praying to Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So you're expecting Krishna to take you seriously? You don't even take yourself seriously. You're just chanting to get your number done. But there's nothing there. There's no connection. So the connection in japa is through the prayer. And you were saying about being bored. Well, part of the boredom comes because the heart shuts off. So then it just becomes a job. When the heart opens up, then there's something that I need to get from Krishna. Krishna, please give me this. I want to be engaged in service. I need it. I have to have it. Without your service, I'm finished. If you actually feel that, it gets very exciting. Because now, it's like you're talking to Krishna. It's like there's a conversation. And you're showing your heart to Krishna. You're putting yourself in front of Him, and you're saying, this is what I need. This is what I want. So, and you will feel it. You will feel the intensity of your own prayer. And then you feel Krishna reciprocating. So now, if we go back to the other kind of chanting, and we ask the question, well, there's a commercial for a credit card in America. It's called a Capital One card. And they do all these funny stunts, and the punchline is, what's in your wallet? And I don't know why it comes to that punchline, but it's some... Do you know why, Rohini? You know those commercials? They have all these commercials like cavemen playing guitars, in rock bands, and I can't figure it out. I don't watch television, but just occasionally I've seen these commercials. And so there's something like happening, and they need the credit card at that moment. So then the punchline is, what's in your wallet? Like if you have the Capital One, you're going to save yourself in this situation because now you're in a desperate situation. So what's in your wallet? So then we could ask the same question, what's in your mantra? Think, what do you mean, what's in my mantra? It's a Hare Krishna mantra. Yeah, that's okay, it's a Hare Krishna mantra. But what's in your mantra? And what's in your mantra is your intention, your desire. So let's say, for example, it's late at night and you haven't finished your rounds and you're very tired, and we've all been there. And we know what it's like to finish our rounds when we're tired. What are we thinking about? We're thinking about we'd like to go to sleep. So our meditation is on our bed. And when you're really tired, the greatest thing you could achieve in the universe at that point is laying down. There's nothing like higher than that, right? Did you ever come home, you're really tired and you're really hungry, but you're too tired to eat? You just, you're starving, but that's way too much energy it's going to take for me to actually sit up and eat. All I want to do is lay down. So we know when we're chanting late at night and we're tired, if we ask the question, what's in your mantra? What's in your mantra is a bed. I mean, realistically, it's funny, isn't it? But realistically, what's in your mantra is a bed. Hare Krishna, I just want to go to sleep. Hare Krishna, I wish I didn't have to chant now. Krishna, Krishna, I'm so tired. Hare Hare, maybe I'll do them tomorrow. Hare Rama, maybe I should stay up because I won't have time to Hare, but I really want to sleep. And then you might be sleeping while you're chanting. So that's where your consciousness is. So this mantra is coming out of your mouth, but your consciousness is, I'd really rather be sleeping. So then we say, what mantra are you chanting? So in a sense, you're chanting the mantra, I'd rather be sleeping. Aren't you? You're not really chanting, Krishna, please engage me in your service, unless you're chanting, Krishna, please engage me in the service of sleeping for you. And you can take this idea and think about what's on your consciousness. Now, probably one of the most common problems, and we allow ourselves to get away with this because we don't really think it's bad, but it is planning our day while we're chanting. Because what else are you going to do while you chant? You got 2 hours to plan your day, right? Hey, I got 2 hours right now of free time. Let's plan it out. Let's plan my vacation to Vrindavan, We could do so many things in those 2 hours, right? In fact, let's get a pen and paper, We could or just get my, phone out. I can start. Okay, I got this, Hare Krishna, I got this idea. Hare Krishna, another idea. And some devotees have even suggested that, and I entirely disagree, because it feeds that creative mind. Well, if you got your notepad, they say, write your notes down so you don't have to think of them. But I say, by doing that, it's just generating more notes. It's like you've allowed yourself to go into note mode. And say, well, Prabhu, what's wrong with thinking about service? There's nothing wrong, but that's not the time. That's not what chanting is, because the heart of chanting is prayer, isn't it? Krishna. It's about me and you. This is what I need, and I'm asking you for this. I'm praying. Please empower me. Please engage me, like that. So now think about, what do you pray for? What's in your mantra? What else is in our mantra? All sorts of plans, what I have to do, shopping, the shopping. What's in your mantra? 3 bananas, 2 apples, and a liter of milk was in my mantra this morning. Yes? Shopping list mantra. Oh, here's a good one. What's in your mantra? Well, I had a problem with the devotee yesterday, and they did something that was really upsetting. So what was in your mantra today? That devotee was in my mantra. Not only was that devotee in my mantra, also all the ill feelings I have towards that devotee was also in the mantra. Yes? Now here's something which is important for us to take note of. And I have seen this in myself, and other devotees have told me. That where they're in a situation where there's some fight or disagreement, devotees have said they have meditated on that disagreement during japa. And they've said a couple things have happened, which you wouldn't think would happen, but they did. One thing that happens is after the 16 rounds, the devotee who's chanting is convinced more than ever that he is right. That was Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. I knew I was right. Hare Ram, Hare Ram. He's so wrong. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. How could he say that? It's so wrong. Hare Ram, Hare. So the chanting is actually somehow or other has fed the false ego. Anyone have that experience? It's an unusual experience that the mantra would feed your false ego. Because how could the Hare Krishna mantra feed your false ego when it should dissolve it? You felt that way. You felt worse, adverse. Yeah. Oh, you realize, well, that's good. But that doesn't always happen. So, no, that means you're chanting properly. She said she felt that it was her fault. But often, devotees get the opposite. They get the opposite. Or they're upset with somebody, and when they finish their rounds, they're more upset. Because they've meditated on how that person did something wrong, and after 16 rounds, they're actually more angry than when they started. So that can't be the Maha Mantra. It's not possible. That just has to be the false ego is engaged with the Maha Mantra. And you're putting this consciousness into it. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. Like, it would make sense what you said, that if you're chanting Hare Krishna, then you would realize, oh, it's actually my fault, or I should apologize, or I should rectify the situation in some way, or in some way we should make it better. But to come to the conclusion that I'm right, more right than ever, they're more wrong than ever, or that I dislike them even more, or even that I'm more angry than I was when I began chanting. So what's in your mantra? Anger, false ego, I'm right. Isn't that interesting? Don't you think? What's in your mantra? Anger, envy, jealousy? Pure name? Okay, now, I threw out something to you that maybe piqued your interest. I said, we start with Nam Abbas. Most devotees say, oh, my chanting's so offensive. No. A Muslim says haram when he sees what? When he sees a bull coming after him? Haram means, oh, abominable. And our Shastra says, that is Nam Abbas. It's the second stage of chanting. Because he's not making any offense. He has no idea what the offense is. He's just saying haram. And you make fun. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Right? You make fun. That's Nam Abbas. You deride them. You stupid Hare Krishnas, you're just parasites. That's also namabhas. To indicate something else, haram, you indicated it was horrible, but haram means horrible. That's namabhas. Hear your beads chant. You started namabhas. You have to actually get yourself into namaparad. You have to do it. What do you think of that? And similarly, you have to get yourself into Shuddhanam. And I'm going to tell you how to do that. Would you like to learn how to do that? You cannot capture the name simply, go up again. You cannot capture the name simply by vibrating the syllables with your tongue. Krishna will come down in His holy name attracted by our pure serving nature. So it's your heart. So Bhakti Siddhanta, we say Krishna and His name are the same, but at the same time he's saying there's a qualification. That you want Krishna consciousness. Okay, then there's a nice story that illustrates this. It was Mahaprabhu's sannyas initiation, and he had a dream that he was going to get the mantra Tattvamasi from his guru. And the Mayavadis interpret this mantra as, you are Him. So that's, you're God. So Mahaprabhu has this mantra. He has a dream he's going to get this mantra, so he consults with the devotees what to do. And the devotees say, you should give him the mantra. Because when you say the mantra Tattvamasi, it means I am his. Vaishnavas mean, Tattvamasi means I am Krishna's. So it'd say, you give him the mantra, and then you'll make him a Vaishnava, you'll initiate him. Then when he gives you the mantra, he'll be giving you that meaning of the mantra. Confused? Raise your hand if you're confused. Okay, get a hammer and hit him in the head. Okay. When you take sannyas, of course, if you're a woman, you won't take sannyas, and maybe not all of us will take sannyas, but when someone takes sannyas, they're given a sannyas mantra. And at the time that Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he was going to take from a Mayavadi, because that was the standard of sannyas, and he would be respected by the other Mayavadis who he wanted to preach to. So he's taking sannyas from Keshav Bharati, and in a dream it's revealed he's going to get the mantra Tattvamasi, and Tattvamasi is acknowledged as the Mayavad mantra, which means you are He, which means you are God. So now he's in anxiety that I'm going to get initiated with this mantra. I'm getting initiated with this mantra, which is an impersonal mantra. So, in consultation, they say, you should ask him, if this is true, I'm going to get this mantra, because when you say it, it means something different for you. For you, it means I am his, I am Krishna's. Krishna's mine, I am his. So when you say, am I going to get this mantra, then you're endowing that mantra with your consciousness, and when he hears it, you're actually initiating him. And so then he'll become a Vaishnava, so that when he gives you the mantra back, Tattvamasi, it will have now the conception that I am his rather than we are him. Now, did you get that? Who didn't get it? If you didn't get it, ice on your head. Okay. Maybe you'll get it when I explain what it means. We were just explaining how it's not just the mantra, but it's the concept which you have. So Lord Chaitanya's concept is I am Krishna's. Keshav Bharati's concept is we're all Krishna. So if Mahaprabhu gets the mantra from him, then that conception is coming. But if Mahaprabhu says, I heard this mantra in a dream. Are you going to give me this mantra? Is it Tat Tvamasi? And then he tells him to Keshavarti, he's actually giving Keshavarti the mantra with the conception that I am Krishna, and therefore Keshavarti got initiated. Before Lord Chaitanya initiated him, he was initiated by Lord Chaitanya, and now he's a Vaishnava. So when he gives him the mantra, it now has a different meaning. So it's the same mantra, but has a entirely different meaning because of the conception of the person who gives it. That's the point we're making. So that's an example in our own scripture. And then there's another example. There is an ashram in India in which the devotees there do 6 hours of Harinam Sankirtan, or as they say in Bengal, Sankirtan, Harinam Sankirtan, as they say in Mayapur. They do 6 hours every day of Harinam Sankirtan. And they're all Mayavadis. Ooh, interesting, isn't it? They're all Mayavadis, and they're going out, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And you look at them and think, oh, there's a kirtan. But they're using the Maha Mantra to become Krishna. And that is considered Nam Aparad. So they don't get purified, they don't become bhaktas, because their intention is to become Krishna. So to use the holy name to achieve something other than love of Krishna, then it becomes Nam Aparad. You're consciously twisting the mantra for a material purpose. You might say, well, they want to become God, isn't that spiritual? It's a material desire. Interesting, isn't it? Do any of you know that? There's an ashram of impersonalists who are trying to become God using the holy name, doing Sankirtan. Sankirtan. Amazing, right? So what is Nama Parad? When you chant Nama Parad, you don't get purified. It's actually, it's very bad. Nama Parad is very bad. It's actually considered worse than sinful activity. You might say, is someone who does Nama Parad worse than a meat eater? How could that be? But it's true. It's actually worse. Because if you chant one name of Krishna purely with devotion, it will absolve you of the sin of meat eating, even of killing a Brahmin, or any kind of sinful activity. But offending the holy name, it's more difficult to overcome. It stains the consciousness. So in Nam Aparad, you might get your material desires fulfilled, but you won't get anything else. And it's just very offensive, Nam Aparad. In Nam Abbas, which is the light, the first dim light of the holy name, it's not pure, so you won't get love of Krishna, but it will lead you to chant pure. And when you chant pure, you get love of Krishna. So in that stage, Nam Abbas, you get anartha nivritti, where you become free from anartha. And by becoming free from anartha, then become purified. Okay, so now it's time for a little nectar devotion class. I will sit down here and give you a little interesting instruction on pure devotional service, which is often misunderstood. And with this enlightened information, you can go ahead and understand that even now, in a neophyte stage, we can actually come to chant pure Shuddha Nam. And most of us think, I'm just chanting Nam Aparad, how can I chant Shuddha Nam? We're not chanting Nam Aparad, most of us. I'll tell you another story before we get to this, because it's really interesting and important. I think you made the point, I try to chant properly, but I don't feel the effect. So is that bad? Is that offensive? It's not. Because the effect is not something you have control of. You only have control of the effort. Right? So the understanding is, if you're making an effort to chant nicely, it's definitely not namaparad. Namaparad is a conscious effort. You're actually not correcting yourself from doing the wrong thing. You're not even not trying. So there's a story that Giriraj Swami told us, and he said that he asked Prabhupada this question. He said, I'm chanting, but I'm not able to control my mind. I'm not thinking. The same problem we all have. Is that offensive? And Prabhupada asked one question. He said, are you trying? And Giriraj Swami said, yes, I'm trying. And then Prabhupada said, therefore it is not offensive. Because you're making the effort, right? So if you allow yourself to commit offense and you don't make an effort to control it, that's considered namaparad. Or you consciously use the name for something material, that's namaparad. So that's why Jayava Dharma says, most all of us are at namabhas. That's where we start from. You either go down or you go up. It's a neutral position. So when you're chanting namaparad, it means you're trying not to commit the 10 offenses, but your chanting may not be pure. Now here's the interesting paradox, that you need to be pure to chant pure name. So can I chant the pure name today? Yes and no. So we have to define the pure name by first defining what is pure devotional service. So, pure devotional service begins from the platform of nishtha. Nishtha means steady. And nishtha comes after the stage of anartha nivritti. Ado sadhu sangha, ado shraddha sadhu sangha bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti, nishtha, stage number 5. And then what comes after nishtha? Who knows? Nectar Devotion students, Chaitanya Charitamrita students. No sweets if you don't know this answer. What comes after nishtha? Ruchi, yeah. So why does ruchi come after nishtha? Because anarthas are desires to enjoy, separate from Krishna. When you no longer hanker to enjoy separate from Krishna, you can begin tasting bhakti, because bhakti is about purely serving Krishna. Just like you're eating something and you have a taste in your mouth, right? And someone says, taste this other preparation, but the tastes don't go together. So when you taste the other thing, it doesn't taste good, although it may taste good on its own, but you have neem leaves in your mouth, and you're trying to taste kheer. It just doesn't taste good. So if we're still trying to taste sense gratification, then we don't get this ruchi, right? So it's said that nishtha is the stage where most of the anarthas are overcome, and they're not affecting you. And that's why the next stage up is ruchi, because you're not hankering after material things. It's also said the stage of nishtha is the firm stage of madhyam, adhikari, the second stage. Now you might say, but Prabhuji, in my class, they said, when you go out and preach, you're a madhyam. Have you heard that? Have you studied that? Second class devotee is one who goes out and preaches. He's a madhyam. Third class doesn't preach. We've also heard that the madhyam has knowledge, but the kanishta may not have knowledge. And we've also heard that the kanishta, he doesn't really know how to relate to devotees. It's all about deities, or it's all about my guru. But everything else is, forget it. That's kanishta. He doesn't really have good relationships. So, and then I'm saying, but nishtha is madhyam. So how do we put it together? Did I lose anybody? Is this too philosophical? Are you too tired? Is it too hot? What? My Radhe Shams, did they work on you? Sort of. When you go out and preach, when you help people, that's called madhyam. But when you're not preaching, you may be a Kanishta Bhakta. So there's two different things. One is being on the platform consistently, and one is doing the actions of a higher level, but you're not on that platform. You may be temporarily doing the activities of someone on a higher platform, but when you stop those activities, by your attitudes and consciousness, it shows you're on a lower platform. So technically speaking, Madhyam is the stage of Nishta, and Nishta is the stage of the first stage of pure devotional service, because you've overcome so many of your anarthas that you can serve Krishna purely. But if there's too many anarthas, when you're doing service, it's all about, what will other people think about me? Will they like it? Will I get recognized? Will I get the Maha plate? Will I get to take charge of this? It's all about those kinds of things. Will I get my name on the wall? Will Krishna, if I do this, will Krishna be nice to me and my son will find a good job? That's not pure yet. It's not Nishta yet. It's not fully situated in Madhyam. So, in the Nectar of Devotion, there we have this definition of pure devotional service. And that definition is, I serve Krishna without the desire for those things. And I don't even want to be liberated. As we were just saying today, you even become detached from the desire to become detached. You just want to please Krishna. Isn't that interesting? Become detached from the desire to be detached. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, if Krishna wants, I will have 100 children. That's detachment from the desire to be detached. He was a Naishtiki brahmachari. And he's saying, I'm willing to have 100 children if Krishna wants. That's a high level of renunciation, isn't it? So, we're doing our bhakti because we want to get out of the material world. It's still not pure. I'm suffering, I want to be free from suffering. It's still not pure. But when you go beyond the desire to become free from suffering, and you go beyond the desire to improve your material condition, that is Rupa Goswami's definition of pure devotional service, where the only motive is to please Krishna. And that's called Madhyam Adhikari, and that's called Nishta. And Nishta is the beginning of pure devotional service, and it's on that stage where we begin to chant Shuddha Nam. Purely, Krishna, I just want to please you. That's the beginning of Shuddha Nam. And Shuddha Nam gives love. Namabhas only gives anartha nivritti, and Namaparad only gives material benefit. So our goal is what? Shuddha Nam. And Shuddha Nam is chanted by who? A Shuddha Bhakta, a Nishta, a devotee on the stage of Nishta, a Madhyam Adhikari. Anyone confused? Raise your hand. Prabhu, I don't know if I'm more confused or more tired. Maybe I'm both. Maybe it's hot. Yeah, maybe it's hot, confused, and tired. Yeah. And hungry. 4 strikes and you're out, right? Prasadam's ready at 1:30? Yeah? You want to check, or you know it's ready? Yeah. So we begin Krishna consciousness, we're Nartha. We're on the second stage, Namabhas. We're not chanting for material benefit. We're becoming purified by our chanting, but it's not yet pure because we're not pure devotees. Now, if you serve Krishna with the desire to please Him, if you serve Guru with the desire to please Him, that's called pure devotional service. That's all. It doesn't mean you don't have a million desires. Just like I was in Mauritius in May. And devotees say, Prabhu, stay here. Please stay here. We want you to stay here. I say, get me a house on the beach and I'll stay here. As long as you want, you give me a house on the beach. And I'll tell you what beach it is. I'll stay there. So, now, I was joking with them, but it's actually true. If they did give me a house on the beach, I would stay there a long time. But it's not the next morning I was, house on the beach, Krishna, Krishna, house on the beach. I wasn't thinking like that. I have that desire. I grew up by the beach. I love the beach. If I could live by the beach, I would be one happy Hare Krishna. That's just a desire I have. But I'm not serving Krishna to get a house on the beach. I'll live without a house on the beach. I'll be happy without a house on the beach. I don't chant my japa praying for a house on the beach. I don't go in front of the deities praying for a house on the beach. But I'd like to have a house on the beach. I'd be happy to have a house on the beach. So there's a difference between the motive of serving Krishna and just material desires in general. Now, if I'm motivated in my service to get a house on the beach, let's go out and preach at the beach to all the rich people in the houses on the beach, because maybe I could cultivate them, and someday, maybe I'd become so close that I could get in their will and they'd write that beach house to me. You see the difference? Now my motive to do the service is to get the beach house. So we all have desires, but if your motive in serving is not to fulfill those desires, but it's to please Krishna, that's called pure devotional service. And we can all do that right now. But when you come to the stage of nishta, you're always like that. You don't even have to battle it. Your material desires have subsided, and your motive is always pure. Sometimes before that stage, your motive's not always pure. Other things get in the way, right? But what it means is that through Namabhas, by controlling our motives, we could actually come to chant purely. Krishna, please. I just want to please you. That's all I want. I just want to serve you. That's actually Shuddhanam. So when we come to the stage of nishta, that's the beginning of pure devotional service. And that's when you can chant Shuddhanam. That's the beginning stages. Why is this important? Because some people say, well, actually, there are no pure devotees in ISKCON. All the pure devotees are in the Gaudiya Math, or they're somewhere outside of ISKCON. But that just means a lack of understanding of what a pure devotee is. Pure devotional service begins from nishta, Madhyamadakari. That's where it starts. There's so many pure devotees. Srila Prabhupada was asked, how many pure devotees are there in ISKCON? Prabhupada said, the devotee said, how many pure devotees are there on the planet? Because the devotee thought, maybe there's 2, you and somebody else, or 3 or 4. Implication was, are any of your god brothers pure devotees? Prabhupada said, how many devotees are there in ISKCON? And at that time there were about 1,000. So the devotee said, Prabhupada, there are 1,000 devotees. And Prabhupada said, then there are 1,000 pure devotees on the planet. So why did he say that? Because he had given the process of pure devotional service, those who followed it, he considered pure devotees, because the process was pure and they followed it purely. Another story, and this is how these are reasons we justify the disciplic succession, that a disciple of a guru can initiate if he's following the process purely. 1972, a devotee who had taken sannyas, who had been a devotee for 3, maximum 4 years, was asked by Prabhupada to chant on the beads of the initiates for Prabhupada. And this meant he was chanting on the beads of his god brothers and god sisters. He said, Prabhupada, I do not feel qualified to do this. Prabhupada said, the order is pure, you execute the order, and therefore your service is pure. So it's a pure order from a pure devotee. We execute it as he wanted, that's considered pure. So if we chant with a desire to advance in Krishna consciousness, and we avoid committing offenses, that's pure. So on the second stage, you're going to go from lower to higher. It's a continuum. So you might be bordering the stage of Shuddhanam, or you might be bordering the stage of Namaparad. But most of us are in that second stage. So it's really important to understand there's a difference between motive and desire, because motives you have control of. Desires will just enter your mind due to past samskars. To millions of lifetimes of conditioning, we have so many desires, and just having a body, you have so many desires, right? Now you're hungry, you're tired, you want to have a family, you want to have children, you have a nature, you love to do scientific things, or you love to do art, music, right? That's just what the body does. But all of those desires can be employed purely to please Krishna. Right? So, Shuddhanam. That's what we want. Yes? Who wants Shuddhanam? So that's our goal. So now when you're chanting, you can be thinking, I want Shuddhanam. And Shuddhanam means I should chant to please Krishna. Not chant to think, oh, I wish this chanting were over. Then you stay in this namabhas and you just kind of stay. You can stay in namabhas for a very long time. You could actually stay, our whole life we can stay there. Yes? Oh yeah. So Avan's asking, well, sometimes we don't know if we're pleasing Krishna in our daily activity. And so you may have to take guidance. But as a general rule, you're in a situation in your life and you think, how can I use this situation to please Krishna, to make him happy? As opposed to, how can I utilize this situation to satisfy my senses? So that's a general question you can ask. Is this pleasing to Krishna, or is it not pleasing? Or how can I make it pleasing to Krishna? Right? Just like my father, you're in a similar situation, but my father was dying. He had about a year to live, and he asked me to move back to where he lived. So I asked devotees, I had a preaching center, and I had to close the center to take care of him. And they said, yeah, this is your duty, go take care of him. So then, how could I make it a Krishna conscious situation? So in his last days, I was able to give him a holy water, tulsi. Then we put tulsi beads on his neck. I would chant my japa next to him every morning. So in that way, a situation which was seemingly like not really related to Krishna, then I could relate it and make it pleasing to Krishna. So we always, in any situation, we always can ask that question. Can I do this for Krishna? How can I do it? Am I doing it just for myself? Because bhakti is all about Krishna's senses. And my material life is all about my senses. So the same thing, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Why am I chanting? So I can feel shanti, shanti. Okay, but then it's for me. Right? I'm just chanting to feel peaceful. But what about pleasing Krishna by my chanting? Yes? While chanting? Yeah. Pure chanting means you're asking how to be a better servant. So asking for clarity would be part of that. Because, well, why are you asking for clarity? Because I want to be a better servant. So it's all about motive. Everything in bhakti is about motive. It's not so much about what's happening externally as much as about why you're doing it. Just like in any relationship, it's not about the guy coming home and bringing you chocolates from Switzerland and beautiful roses. It's like, why is he doing this? What's going on here? He's got another girlfriend and he doesn't want you to know. And all of a sudden, he's acting strange. He's buying flowers 3 days a week. He's buying chocolates every week. He's being really nice. And you think, something's wrong. He must have done something wrong. So externally it looks good, but the motive is to cover himself because he doesn't want you to know. So it's not just that the external is good enough, but it's why you're doing it. So the holy name is really what this whole discussion we had in the last hour just shows. The holy name is really neutral, and it's endowed with our consciousness. And that consciousness determines the quality of the chanting. And the mantra just sounds the same. Yes? Does that make sense?